It is 7 o'clock. I'd like to call this special meeting of the German Township Trustees to order. Would we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag Mr. Easton, can we have the roll call, please?
Good evening. Cross here. Mr. Stubbs here. Mr. Bonner here. All are present, and this is a special meeting. The announced purpose was to discuss a resolution to enact a moratorium on all small solar facilities in German Township.
So to add on to that, we can only discuss the topics that relate to this purpose of the meeting. So basically it has to be all solar. So if you have any other topics, please attend our meeting on the 10th at 7 o'clock. So the meeting will be a little different tonight. I will give a presentation on the background of solar facilities in Ohio. Then, before officially introducing the resolution to place a moratorium on small solar facilities, I will read the complete resolution to know what the board is considering. At that point, we will open up the meeting up to questions and comments for the public. All will get a chance to comment. Please come to the podium to speak and state your name and address. The meeting is being recorded on WebEx and will be available on YouTube if you go to German Township, Ohio on YouTube. So again, let me make a presentation just to hopefully educate some people. To begin my presentation, I will refer to Article 8A, Agricultural District Preamble in the German Township Zoning Resolution. This district has been established to provide for agricultural activity and related uses and is intended to protect and preserve areas of prime agricultural soils for continued agricultural and agriculturally related uses. Some background. Solar facilities in Ohio are grouped into two broad categories: large-scale solar facilities, 50 megawatts or larger, and 1 megawatt equals 1 million watts, and small-scale solar facilities less than 50 megawatts. So a question I always ask is, how many acres are necessary to place enough solar panels to produce 1 megawatt? Anybody? 6 or 7 is all you need to produce 1 megawatt, to have enough solar panels. Any solar project in Ohio, 50 megawatts or higher, must go through regulations determined by the Ohio Power Siting Board, OPSB. These regulations are quite extensive, as is the application process. So this is the flow chart of the application. You can't really see it, but you can tell how complicated it is. So, and involve multiple, these regulations are quite extensive, as is an application process, and involve multiple public meetings and meetings by the OPSB before any project can be approved and construction commenced. As an example of the scope of a large-scale project, on June 15th, 2023, so basically 2 weeks ago, the Ohio Power Siting Board approved the construction of a 300 megawatt solar-powered electrical generating facility in Clinton County. It involved 2,460 acres. However, the total project, when they took into consideration setbacks from other properties, was actually 4,000 acres involved. So that's a big project. Prior to October 11th, 2021, with the passage of Senate Bill 52, Ohio counties and townships had no authority to regulate solar facilities as they were considered a public utility. Senate Bill 52, effective 10/11/2021, gives county commissioners powers to designate restricted areas where large solar and wind facilities cannot locate. So they were talking large solar and wind facilities. It can prohibit the construction or limit the scope of a specific project outside of the restricted areas. And this information is included in Ohio Revised Code 303.58. House Bill 501 gives zone townships express authority to regulate solar projects under 50 megawatts. As of April 6, 2023, so just a few months ago, zone townships may regulate small solar facilities. And this information is included in Ohio Revised Code 519.213. So compared to the extensive regulations involved in siting a large-scale solar project, a small-scale solar facility only requires approval from zoning departments to receive a zoning permit. This is especially a problem if no regulations are currently in place. As a result of this, my question is, are townships going to see more small-scale facilities being proposed because they're much easier to get through? According to an OSU webinar on 5/30/23, if townships wish to regulate small solar projects, townships need question whether existing regulations address current situations. Townships have a rule distinguishing the type of systems and treat them accordingly. Townships should determine zoning districts that require permitted or conditional use designation for small scale projects. And some concerns with solar project in agricultural areas include losing prime ag soils, as well as concern with grading and compactions of soils. Also, drainage problems, weeds, and loss of pollinator habitats is a problem. So I asked the moderator a question by email that she answered. The question was, in your opinion, should townships place separate regulations regarding residential solar projects from larger projects in order to preserve prime agricultural soils? Her answer was, protecting prime soils is a legitimate use of the zoning authority townships now have. If maintaining agriculture is a priority for a township, it makes good sense to protect the soils that best support the agricultural production occurring in the township and include restrictions against siting solar on some or too much of those soils. And that webinar is available. I have that address if you want it for me. So these are the questions that the trustees are addressing tonight. The trustees tonight pass a 6-month moratorium on small-scale solar facilities in German Township, except for single-family home structures, while the zoning commission crafts regulations. Within this 6-month moratorium, do most landowners want the trustees to craft a permanent moratorium on small-scale solar facilities except for single-family structures? And another question, do landowners wish for the trustees to approach the county commissioners to designate German Township a restricted area where large solar facilities cannot locate? So basically, the gist comes down, there's small scale solar facilities. That's what townships can regulate. We cannot regulate large scale solar facilities, the thousands of acres. However, the county commissioners can restrict large scale solar facilities. So basically what I'd like to do is go ahead and read through the resolution, and then we can start some questions and answers. So the resolution to enact a moratorium on small solar facilities in German Township, Montgomery County, Ohio. The Board of Trustees of German Township, Montgomery County, Ohio met in special session June 23 with the following members present. So that's whatever. Whereas revised code section 519.213 confers power on the Board of Trustees, the board, and the Board of Zoning Appeals with respect to the location, erection, construction, reconstruction, change, alteration, maintenance, removal, use, or enlargement of any small solar facility, whether public or privately owned, as well as the use of land for that purpose. And whereas the board, staff, and German Township Zoning Commission need time to review and evaluate the provisions of revised code 519.213 and potentially prepare and implement certain amendments to the German Township zoning resolution. And whereas the board finds it is the best interest of the residents and property owners of German Township, Montgomery County to allow to accomplish these objectives. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of German Township, Montgomery County, that with the exception of single-family home structures where power is generated and used on site, the board believes it is in the best interest of the township to institute a moratorium on small solar facilities as those are defined in revised code 519.213A2 to allow time for the board, staff, and zoning commission to review and evaluate the provisions of revised code 519.23, potentially prepare and implement certain amendments to the German Township zoning resolution. Be it further resolved that the board hereby finds that significant legitimate public interest exists in the temporary preservation of the status quo by suspending all action regarding small solar facilities, including but not limited to the construction and or installation of new small solar facilities, and the modification or expansion of existing small solar facilities is necessary to achieve the legitimate public interest. Be it further resolved that the board hereby enacts a moratorium on small facilities for a period of 6 months from the adoption of this resolution unless otherwise repealed or amended by the board. Be it further resolved that the board finds and determines that all formal actions of the board concerning and related to the passage of this resolution were taken in an open meeting of the board, and that all deliberations of this board that resulted in such formal action were in meetings open to the public in compliance with legal requirements. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall be in full force and effect immediately upon its adoption. So that's what we're thinking about doing. So
Have you introduced that, Dr. Cross?
I have not.
Would you like to?
Let's wait until we have the comments and decide. So I would like to open up to public comments. Chad and Lucy Gilbert were able to be here tonight, but they sent a letter to us to read. So I'm going to have Mr. Heaston read that right now.
This is a statement dated June 26, 2023 from Chad M. Gilbert. The look and feel of an area and the decision to purchase a home or even bare land is influenced by a host of factors. People put a lot of thought into where they want to live when buying or building a house. Many things come into play in that decision, such as the school district, distance to work, being close or far away from retail, depending on your preference, and just the general look and feel of the area. When it comes to bare land, whether recreational or agricultural, the look and feel of an area as well as the intended use of the property drives many decisions. That look and feel portion is driven not only by geography, but by local zoning laws. A developer is not going to buy at the far edges of the township and try to put streets in because they would know that it is not allowed. On the flip side, someone may want to buy a house in the same location because they know that a development can't go in. There are places and properties that fit the needs of both people. However, they are rarely the same property or even the same general area. People know that in our township, there may be the occasional house being built, but that it is limited. Their farming neighbor may build a barn or grain bin, harvest late at night, or get mud on the road once in a while, but it comes with the territory and is essentially the price of paradise. You know the deal going in. I am all about property rights, but large solar arrays are not what most people signed up for in this township. So much is unknown, but I can't imagine that it would be good for neighboring property values. Would any of you like living next to acres of glass and high security fencing? That is not an agricultural setting, but more like industrial. There was no way township residents could anticipate this. In our area, many farm and home drainage tiles go through multiple properties before emptying into a ditch or creek. The lay of the land dictates that. How are they to be maintained or replaced when they need to run under acres of panels? The law says that you must take your neighbor's water if it naturally flows that way. Does anyone think that you would be able to run new tile or repair old tile on one of these sites? I have received probably 100 letters about solar in the last few years. Every letter is from a different company and they all promise basically the same thing. My first red flag is the sheer number of companies in this market, because it seems that everyone wants in. Most will fail. Some will do well and survive. An acquaintance has wind turbines on his farm and said he would never do it again. He is on his third company after 2 failed or sold out, and each new company does not have to honor the terms of the previous lease. His promised yearly lease gets less with each new company. I also question why these solar companies are not willing purchasers of the land themselves. When they are paying $1,500 an acre per year to lease land with a 2% increase every year, it seems like an easy choice to just spend $7,000 or $8,000 per acre and buy the land yourself. With today's interest rates, the cash flow would be equal in years 7 or 8. I'm guessing they prefer the 20-year lease because they can walk away in the end with no ties and no obligations. John Doe Farm Solar Project LLC will cease to exist, but the leftovers will remain for the owner, township, or county to deal with. There was no way these will get turned back into farmland when the term is up because it is hard to recreate nature. We cannot do things that are completely out of the norm for our township and that have detrimental effect on others. Our township looks the way it does because of choices made in the past with a vision toward the future. So far, we have done well with what we have, hopefully we can continue on a path that lives up to the expectations of those that have come before and our current residents. And again, this is from Chad M. Gilbert, dated June 26, 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Houston. So it's a little bit to throw at you, I guess. We can do this now. We can put a moratorium on small scale solar facilities. We can't do anything right away against large scale. I mean, and that's maybe the next step. But at least we can do this and we can put this into effect right away. So even though a small scale facility may only be 30 or 40 acres, if you live next to that small scale facility, you may not be thrilled to be there versus a 1,200 acre is certainly much bigger. And the problem, German Township at this time has no regulations concerning solar facilities of any type. Basically have been treating roof mounted solar panels on homes as basically no permit is needed because you really aren't changing anything. You're not structurally changing the house or anything. You're just like putting on a new pair of new set of shingles. And we consider the ground mounted ones to just be an accessory structure that has to be in the backyard with a 6 feet clearance around the property line. So our goal certainly is to get those taken care of. Some possibilities, the zoning commission could put into the zoning resolution that small scale solar facilities are a conditional use on a property. Conditional use means that any approval would have to go through the Board of Zoning Appeals. So it gives that extra step. And I'm going to say that the current Board of Zoning Appeals is very intent on retaining agricultural soils. So that would be one day to do it. By putting this or approving this resolution tonight, we can do this step that we can do. I don't know if Jefferson Township or Jackson Township has any solar panel regs. Okay, nothing from Jefferson. Jackson. Okay.
Not yet.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys being here. Yeah, same answer. Yeah. So again, this is a step we can take. It gives us 6 months, and it may be that one avenue is get this in place, gives us some time, so nobody can put a small solar facility in the township at this time. We may decide that there's such overwhelming aversion to putting any solar facilities in the township that we make this a permanent moratorium. That can't be done tonight. That's a whole other resolution. And then again, this is just my opinion. I think if we're concerned about large scale, that we approach the Montgomery County Commissioners and say that all of German Township wants to be excluded from any large scale solar. And that certainly can happen too. That may be something that Jackson and Jefferson want to think about doing. But you can't if someone starts their project, you can't, and you haven't got something in place, you really can't stop it. So questions, please, if you want to have any questions or comments, please come to the podium and state your name and address. Come on up. Come on to this one. This podium.
Lee, 107 I just have a question and clarification.
Yeah.
How large of a ground solar field could an individual property owner have before it's considered a small regulated?
Basically, that's a good question, because how do you differentiate between somebody who has solar panels on their house or has a small just array in their backyard? How do you differentiate that from the person that's going to put a 4 megawatt small scale facility? Yeah, a larger one that's going to encompass 30, 40 acres. The lady that ran the webinar basically gave me the answer. The best way to do that is to consider how the energy is used. So in a residential situation, you are producing the energy on your lot. You are using the energy on site. In a commercial entity, you're generating it at that site, but you are shipping it off to somebody else. So you're not using.
So if it's a farmer using it on their own facility or grain bins or whatever, it would be allowed.
That's a good question. Like I say, if it's depending on, there's no cutoff. there's no real cutoff as far as megawatts. And that's why I asked her, is any, there really isn't. Again, is the best way to probably approach that is if it's produced on site and used on site. And, you know, and come on, Jay.
I'm James Rowland, 10021 Carlton Pike.
It's James Roll. I'm just repeating it, so
That's fine. That's, I've got a problem with your whole idea there because if I, as a personal person, puts in solar, because I've been looking at this for about the past 10 years now, waiting until it gets to be cost effective. I have to produce more than I use because I'm not going to be able to be using it at nighttime. So I have to pump extra stuff into the system so I get credit to use stuff back when I don't have energy that's there. So I can't have a system that's just put on my property that just goes to my house, because if I don't pump any out to them during the day, I don't have any to use at nighttime. So when you start saying, you know, that you can only put something in place that just goes to your house, then that's not a residential system that a person could use for their property. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but because I have solar panels, just to be honest. So any excess energy that I produce goes back to AES, but it gets credited on my bill.
So under what you're saying, you wouldn't be right with that.
Well, no, the excess energy that goes to.
But you're selling it out. You said that.
No, I'm not. I'm getting credited on my account. It's not going to anybody else. So it's not like you're selling it to.
So the wording of the thing would bother me, and I would be concerned because for me to put a system in place, it has to be big enough that I can sell stuff to them so that I can pay for.
Yeah, so
so that I can pay for the
right
equipment to go in and all that.
The way it works out again is that, you know, any excess energy, say that I produce that month.
I understand, but what I'm saying is I need to be able to sell that to them so that I can pay for the stuff to help offset my costs, because it takes a lot of energy to run a house. And I've been through the calculations and I've done all the stuff, and without having numbers and just saying, you know, the determination between a residential and a small scale thing is not clear with what you guys are saying to me. Does that make sense?
Sense, but again, you're not producing energy to go off site. It does go off site. That's the way.
Well, that's where that wording is. The wording that I'm questioning, the wording about energy
Going off site during the day, then it comes.
Yeah.
So it's not like.
But if let's say I produce more than I use that month. Now, am I in conflict with what this?
No, you're not, because it's going back to your account. It's not going to anybody else. You're not selling that energy to AES or any other utility. It's going to be a credit on your account.
Okay.
What he's asking if he credits each month more than he does, can he ever get rid of it?
That's a question you have to, that's a question you have to AES, but no, it goes back on your account. So that's why you wouldn't want a terribly large system, you know, even with a residential system, you don't want a terribly large system that you're going to produce so much energy because you're not going to be able to do anything with it except credit your account.
Well, the story they all give you is that you're going to put in a solar system that's going to give you money back and pay for your stuff. And then when they tell you that, it's going to only does 75%. And that's only during the day when it's running. And then, so these solar systems don't produce enough energy to do your house anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, in my case, you know, basically four out of the 12 months, they're only months that I actually owe money to AES. The other ones, you know, I've got credit. But again, in your case, in a residential system, it's going back to credit your account. It's not going to some other.
So we could still build in a.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because so that's kind of, because it's all used on site versus going off site.
Mike McLaughlin, 6025 Germantown Pike.
That's Mike McLaughlin. Again, I'm just saying it for the camera. Thank you.
So do you have a battery system?
I do not yet, because they're very expensive. You know, if it got to the point, and it hasn't happened yet, if the electric company we use, AES, it has to go through AES. It can't go through any other.
Correct. You can't use any substitute.
Can't use any substitute. if it get to the point where the law changes that AES can say, we're not going to give you credit, then in that case, it would be advisable to get a battery system. So you store the excess, you can use that excess during the night. Yeah, so
Has anybody spoken to the commissioners? Do we know how they
we
feel?
have not talked to them yet. Yeah, I haven't approached them.
So we don't know what the county is going to do necessarily.
I don't think the county has been approached by anybody. I think that's why we're trying to kind of get on top of this because it's changing so quickly. And April 6th is when just the small scale, the townships were allowed to regulate this. So it's only been, what, 3-4.
So the regulation is on not the number of panels, the number of acres. It's on megawatts. Megawatt is the deciding factor.
Exactly. It's the size of the property. And I
So
know.
go to the commissioners, 50 over 50 megawatts.
Yeah, over 50 and over is a large scale solar facility.
Then you rattled off a number of how many acres that is. So what?
No, I rattled off one of the projects, how big a large solar facility, a large scale is a lot of acres. That doesn't, I don't know exactly how many.
So I'm trying to decide as a township, how many acres can we relatively regulate versus it has to go to the county commissioners?
You really can't regulate by acreage. You can, if it's under 50 megawatts, you can regulate that because that's a small.
So who decides this number? An engineer?
It's been decided by the state. Yeah, I don't know. That's just the cutoff. If it's under 50 megawatts, and if you, go ahead.
So, and that doesn't decide on number of panels. The megawatts is how much sun you're getting, how far away from the equator you are.
I don't know how they actually determine that. Yeah, there's a formula, obviously, that they figure out this many panels will produce this many megawatts. I'm not sure. I'm not a physicist or an engineer.
So we're on here, you
On
have
here,
1
yes.
megawatt to 6 to 7 acres. So you're looking at the
So if you look at it, yeah.
300,
6 acres times 50 is 300 acres.
Okay.
give you 300 acres.
Yeah, so that gives you a rough estimate of.
So anything 300 acres or less, the township should be able to.
Well, but you can't go by acreage.
Well,
yes.
But it has an
You have to go
estimate.
by the 6 or 7 acres.
Yeah, definitely. So
Theoretically.
theoretically. And so interestingly enough, a couple of weeks ago, the Dayton changed the zoning on 60 acres of land in northwest Montgomery County. So they could put a solar farm up there, but the output of the solar farm is 49.9 megawatts to get underneath the power siting board. So.
As engineers fudging that number. Yeah.
Anyway, well, thank you very much. Yeah, so come on up. I'm trying,
5585 Weaver Road, Jefferson Township.
I think that's the name.
Dan King, K-I-N-G.
Thank you.
Okay, nothing to do with German Township, but received a letter last week, my wife and I think Mr. and Mrs. Lucas, because they were joining properties on the corner of Manning Road and Weaver, northwest corner. That young fellow that bought that and his mother are planning on putting a solar farm in there, and it's going to be huge. My suggestion is get past whatever you can pass, because it doesn't look like there's anything going to stop these people. According to the letter we got, Megan, do you have a copy of that letter?
Yep. We've got the same letter, Jack.
I don't necessarily need to read the whole thing, but according to this, it's well into being done.
yeah, we kind of got that letter too. And that's what I said, unless you have some regulation in place.
Now, according to the young man that bought it, he's doing my hay. He hasn't signed everything. He said he got paid to have him survey it. But I don't know if he was just telling me that to get the
This
old man
goes
off the
back
phone or
to
not.
Jefferson Township. Has that person submitted anything to the zoning department looking?
No.
So you would have to consult your,
Oh, I know that. The only reason I'm talking to you is that anybody here that's might vote against that and really needs to think about it, because this thing's going to be a junkyard right on out in the middle of a beautiful area. I just built a humongous house right across the street basically from it. And, just it's the last thing in the world anybody wants to see. So if anybody uses their head, they'll vote with you and condemn this because it's a mess.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of wanted to have a special meeting. It's always difficult but our next meeting is until July 10th, so it's only a week and a half.
Well, I'm glad you did it because I'm just,
wanted to get this on.
I'm basically just supporting what you're doing and we're hoping Mike and I's fighting for it. And
Yeah, I would, say, because the problem is, again, if there's nothing in the zoning-ish resolution, then it's gonna be hard to block it.
Right.
They're gonna, probably to get building permits, they're gonna have to go through Montgomery County, which.
Well, it may not even be a done deal. He may have to get more done, but the drainage is going to be bad. It's already, the field floods and goes down. I live in a low area. All the water comes into a creek going through our property. And it's going to get way worse. And there's a ton of water coming off this field already. And this is going to make it even worse. So.
And the biggest concern is, and this was brought up, if you have a problem with drainage, once the panels are in there with all the framework, how do you go in there and replace?
They're not going to do nothing with that. They're not going to do nothing. It's just going to end up being a junkyard on that corner. And everybody in this place really is going to be affected by it because everybody goes down Manning Road. So we're all going to get subjected to looking at a junkyard on that corner. So I'm just here to state my
Appreciate it.
concern over, everybody needs to fight against this with all their life.
This is one, it's easy, but it certainly is one way to do it. So
Right. So it's just going to go everywhere.
again, I agree that, large projects are so hard to get through and they can be, the Ohio Power Siting Board can actually, deny them. That's what happened in Greene County when they tried to put the big solar project over there. And that one is up to actually the Supreme Court.
Well, and to give you another idea, I have a trucking company. We were approached by a solar company to handle what he said was hundreds and hundreds of loads of solar panels, which was way above me anyway. And I'm sure as hell glad that I didn't do it because it would have been hauling them down to my own property. At any rate.
Approach your trustee.
Oh, he's working with me.
Okay, yeah.
Mike's a good man. He'll get it done.
Who's your legal representative for Jefferson Township? Is it the same as us?
It should be the same guy.
You guys, yeah, I knew it. So good luck. Yeah, that's kind of what we're doing.
We need anybody that knows anybody, we need the help.
Stay on them, Dave.
Anybody else? Yeah. Back in.
Receive a letter. But you guys, I hear all these letters. I mean, Mr. Hewitt said he got a letter. I hear these letters coming out. Has a dollar amount been mentioned? How much an acre are these people supposed to be giving you the solar farm in?
Yeah, between 1,200 and 1,800.
Hey, I don't do corn and beans.
1,200 to 8.
And is that more than you're gonna make doing corn and beans? Yes.
So give you, I don't want to interrupt, but we need to kind of have the questions going this way.
I'm sorry.
This record.
So me as a trustee, don't you question where this money's coming from?
Well, it's big money, yeah. They're offering, and that's when you see that much money in front of you as a landowner.
Yes. So we got to fight these residents of our township, be it Germantown or be it Jefferson or whatever township you live in. We got to fight these people upstairs that are throwing this money out, because it sounds like they're offering you more money than you can make.
Certainly, yeah.
So where's this money coming from? It doesn't make that much. It doesn't make that much making electricity.
Subsidized from somewhere.
Yeah,
So-
so I can't answer that question, but it really doesn't have anything to do with our resolution tonight. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's just, okay, we're on the same page. I want to copy some of that paperwork tonight.
Yeah, that's fine. Coming up, Jack.
Jack Warner, Farmersville, West Carrollton Road,
And Jack Warner, thank you. Go ahead.
Jefferson Township. My question is, what signifies a mega farm? Is it the company? And if he has 350 acres, be it 50, 100, 50, 100, is that one mega farm or is it divided among landowners?
I can't answer that question.
With the SOPs that are running this place and trying to bring this energy in, that's probably what they're going to try and do. And they'll skirt you guys.
They could.
And then it's up to the county, right?
Well, it's for large ones, it's up to the county. For small ones, it's up to us. So,
So how many companies are offering this money? Are they all coming from the same?
There's only a couple letters out.
So Jack kind of directed to us.
How many companies are in the game?
I can't answer that, but I think again, there's so much money involved and I think a lot of it is government subsidies.
Yeah, sure. It's right, coming right here
According to Chad, he gets 3 or 4 letters a week from
Right,
different
yeah,
companies.
yeah.
from different companies.
According to Chad.
Okay, so that's,
That again brings up the, I don't know how that's determined. It's obviously some formula that the company,
yeah. If company A would buy his farm or rent, lease his farm and his farm and his farm, now he's got enough megawatts to bypass you guys.
But you have to go by the state then.
Yeah, which is full of money too, so
Just
thank you.
like the North Montgomery County, them skirting it to 49.
Exactly.
You guys could keep your comments to us versus between yourselves because we can't put this on the record then. So. What else?
Andy Klotz, 13261 Oxford Road. I agree with Chad Gilbert's letter. When I retired from the Air Force almost 27 years ago, my wife looked around a 5-county area looking for a place to build a home. We settled out here in German Township because it's serene, there's nature, etc. I go on record to say I'm opposed to solar farms and I support your resolution. I support also contacting the county commissioners to get on board to do away with large megawatt solar farms in this township. Just as I oppose the marijuana production thing that was proposed some years ago. I oppose having solar farms in this area because it's going to take away from the nature, the beauty, and the serenity of where I live. Yes, I drive on Manning Road, so I'm not happy if there's going to be a huge solar farm there. I don't have to worry about drainage per se, but I oppose such buildings of these fields in our area. And so therefore I support your resolution and hope that the township trustees pass this and then further pursue going to the county commissioners to eliminate the chance of a 50 megawatt or larger solar farm in our area.
Anybody else have any comments? Come on up.
Greg Griffin, 6100 Diamond Mill.
Griffin,
Greg.
Greg.
thank you.
The G. Commend you guys for taking this on, trying to get ahead of it. Just want to let everyone know that I had signs printed, so should have them available tomorrow evening. I'm going to put them at the grain bins at the corner of Manning and Diamond Mill. Should be able to pull in, circle around, grab a couple signs, go head back out. I just hope we can get something ahead of these people. I think you have to really give some careful consideration when decisions we're making are going to affect our kids. About a 40-year lifespan. I hope I got 40 more years, but it's going to affect our kids as much as us. So
Again, they're not making any more land. This is what we got. Yes.
right. So the signs are no solar on farm ground. So, but feel free to stop and grab a couple. Just make sure you put them up. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You said tomorrow?
So I guess this is my question, and just to bring this up, or is everybody pretty much against solar farms on it? Is there anybody in favor of it?
Thing is, there's got to be a number. You got to have a number that differentiates the residential.
You can't have a number.
So if I can do it, so I can do 15 kilowatts at my house if I want to.
No, they let you do whatever you consume. It's an average of what you consume.
Who does?
The solar.
No, I can build my own solar array at my house.
Well,
I don't have to have
not
a
for
company.
profit, it's for consumption.
But I know that, but I can build my own solar array at my house. What is to say that it,
What are you gonna do with the extra?
well, you have to have enough to do during the night. So everything in my house is powered by electricity. I have a geothermal heat system.
So yeah, basically, we're kind of rehashing the same thing, Jim, but, you know,
So-
yeah.
So my concern is, okay, you're gonna put this in place. I'm gonna want to put in a solar array, and now somebody's gonna say, you can't do that now because we're considering that to be a small, we consider that. to
No,
be
as
a
long
small-
as it's generated on that site and used on that site.
Well, but
It's-
again, it has to be able, I have to be able to, and I live with AES because I live in the end of Duke Energy, okay? So I'm on a totally different system than you
Yeah,
are.
we'd have to check with Duke Energy, like I say,
So-
because,
You know, so it's, again, it's a different situation.
well, it really isn't, you know, again, it's because,
You won't be a public utility, you can't sell it and make a rent.
yeah, exactly. You're going to use that. So yeah, so you can build a larger facility, but you're still generating on site, using it on site. You're not selling it to anybody. They're going to give you a credit. They're basically crediting it. Nobody else is buying your electricity. Sorry, Chad. Yes.
Just build whatever size, that I needed to take.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be under 50 watts, but it's not the size. It's where it's generated, where it's
It
used.
has to be under, well, it has to be under 50. So how long have I used it?
Hey, guys. Hey, guys, could you guys keep the talk between yourselves?
Yeah, we need it for the recording so
Yeah.
we can hear the conversations. No, you're good. You're good.
Ed Eby, Jefferson Township, Farmersville, Scranton Road.
Sorry, first name?
Ed,
Pat Eby, thank you.
another thing you guys might think about is also the windmills. You know, they're talking solar. Do we want the windmills? We don't want that either. So maybe that needs to be something in the resolution.
We really can't change it tonight, but that's again, something.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's coming because, you know, they're getting free money to put these things up. So something to think about and look at.
It's the same sort of thing.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you.
So we can meet again next Tuesday, next day.
So any other comments? So basically our goal is to vote on this tonight. It's going to give us some time to, time to decide. And should we have another public meeting just to discuss this? Or I don't know if that's necessary. We will have to have, if we decide to go to Montgomery County Commission and they do request that German Township be excluded from any large wind or large solar facilities, then we'd have to have another meeting just like this. I'll try certainly to give you more notice today. Today was more to get it in place so we can kind of cover or protect you guys basically. So any more public comments? So let's go ahead.
I'm clear with what this is. So this is put this on hold for 6 months. So you have time to put a policy in place.
Policy in place, if that's what we
So
decided.
that's what you're voting on.
That's what we're
right?
voting on, exactly. So, yeah, so it puts it in place. It gives us time to decide. And it may be that overwhelmingly the township doesn't want any solar and we can, deal with representatives and say, can we make this a permanent moratorium? And then, like I say, the county commissioners are totally different. That's the large scale. So that's the goal, is to get that done. But I will certainly go ahead and talk to the county commissioners and discuss that with. So again, I think for the most part, we're getting overwhelmingly that we do not want solar farms in the township. And the only problem with that is you're taking away the choice from landowners. But, again, we're looking at the good of the township. So I think, and that's why we were elected to watch out for you guys.
Right.
So are we ready to vote?
You haven't introduced
I'm ready to introduce, yeah. So I'd like to introduce resolution 2023-30. A resolution to enact a moratorium on small solar facilities in German Township, Montgomery County, Ohio. We're not going to read it again, since it's the same as you read it before. You don't. So do it.
You're seconding. Any discussion of resolution 2023-30?
Just want to thank people for showing up tonight, you say, because it was something that I think that it's just moving so fast that, you know, our goal is to get this in place, at least for German Township. I hopefully Jackson Township can do. And I don't know what your residents are thinking, though, you know, so it might behoove you to think about something. And we can give it this. This actually, this resolution came from Miami Township in Greene County. There was an article in the paper that said they had passed this resolution, so I talked to one of their trustees and got a copy of it. So that's, I can't really take credit, but it's basically something we needed. Something they should be proactive.
If not, I'll call the roll. Dr. Cross?
Yes.
Mr. Stubbs?
Yes.
Mr. Potter?
Yes.
Resolution 2023-30 is adopted.
We have enacted the moratorium for 6 months, so this gives us. We'll try to keep you informed what's going on with the county commissioners. So that would be the next step. Really protect from the large. And again, the zoning commission will meet on July 5th to discuss this, and as far as if they can put any regulations. But they've heard your comments tonight, so it may make their decision different than what they were thinking of doing. So
We need to voice our opinion there as well.
you could. It's at July 5th at 7 o'clock in this same building.
And there's a lot of new faces today. We have an email list that we send out to, Mr. Heason does, right? We still send out for meeting notices and other things. If you want to be added to that, make sure you leave us your name and email address before you go. We also have a Facebook page where we put information out on and a new up-to-date website. So you can check out all those places for information. And thank you guys all for coming tonight. And if you want to come back, we're here on July 10th, right? July 10th at 7 p.m.
Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I have no problem.
We are adjourned at 7:46.
I have no problem.